California, yeah, it's in big trouble, and it's hard to see how it gets out of its troubles anytime soon. So I was actually planning to record this video while passing through Los Angeles International Airport on my way back to Canada, but due to flight complications, that didn't happen, which is kind of emblematic of California as a whole. So here I am, still in Costa Rica, but let's talk about California, where its problems are going to affect all of us if they haven't already. Now, there's three big reasons why. California used to be the land of hopes and dreams, stars, Hollywood, opportunity, that kind of thing. But California has spent far too much of its life a bit like an actor, confusing the movie sets of Hollywood for reality. It's kind of a land where little boys refuse to grow up, learn from their mistakes, and move past magical thinking. It's kind of the land of Pinocchio, you could say. And Pinocchio lives as though everything is possible, life never requires trade-offs or sacrifices, and consequences never come from bad decisions. So this has led California, the land of dreams, to become the land of nightmares. Which brings us to problem number one, ineffective politics. So there's a gubernatorial race underway now to elect a new governor on November 3rd of this year, 2026. And of course, everyone has their favorite, but at the end of the day, the truth is, whomever is chosen as the new governor of California won't really matter. Considering the amount of open election fraud going on already, it really makes no difference who becomes the so-called governor. They're not going to fix anything anytime soon. And even if it wasn't for the complete breakdown in democracy in California, California was already too mired in other problems from decisions made in the past for anyone to be able to fix them now, at least not quickly. So the immediate political scene really doesn't matter nearly as much as the second problem, although it definitely affects it. And that's the problem of oil. So California used to have a robust oil industry that fueled the state's development and growth. And it was pulling oil out of the ground way back in the 1880s. It built refineries to process the oil and then sell the gas to Californians. But those refineries are now 100 years old, and the oil fields are drawing down. What's left is increasingly expensive to extract and refine. So in fact, oil production has dropped 75% since 1980, according to a paper out of Stanford recently. 75%. So the result? Well, oil refineries have been shuttering. Phillips 66 was the latest to close, I believe, and that was in December 2025. But refineries have been dropping like flies over the last decade. They went from around 20 to single digit today. And to make up for the loss of oil, California is kind of unique in the US. It imports from overseas. Initially, it was doing it from Alaska, but more recently from foreign sources, mostly in the Middle East. That's all right when the global economy runs smoothly, and pure chaos when it doesn't, kind of like we see today. So California drivers, not surprisingly, pay the highest prices in the lower 48 states, around about $6 a gallon. Now, you would think that the state government would have been handling the oil industry with kid gloves over the years, trying to ease the old guy out slowly and transition smoothly into other options. But that's not what happened. The state went hard on climate action policies that made it extremely difficult for the remaining oil industry to continue functioning at all. So the state proclaimed, well, we're going to move everyone on high-speed trains instead. Which brings us to problem number three. California came up with a grand plan to build a high-speed train network, linking the major centers together from San Francisco all the way down to Los Angeles and San Diego. Now, high-speed trains are nice, but they do have their limits, and they definitely require realism and pragmatism. This, of course, is not California's forte. You see, mature, pragmatic governments will first do studies to make sure the project actually makes financial sense. And if they discover it doesn't, then they don't build it. Now, if it does look feasible, then they tend to build them in one of two ways. One is they build and pay for it themselves, and then run it on a cost recovery basis for the benefit of their citizens. Or two, they get a private company to build it, but maintain government oversight. I should add that pragmatic governments know it's best to build these things in stages. But California is, as we said, Pinocchio. They did everything the way a boy with magical thinking would, and nothing the way a serious man would do it.
Okay, that got way too windy, so we're doing the next part here in my hotel room wood. They started building before they were ready, for one, and even before that, they created a funding model based on hope more than realism. They planned to build it with kind of a cobbled together mix of federal funding, bonds, private investment, and revenue from a convoluted pollution tax, aimed again at the dying oil industry. So things went forward fast and hit roadblocks just as quickly. The project has stalled. So far, the state has spent at least $32 billion on the project, a difficult sum to finance even in the best of times. But they need at least another $100 billion more to complete it. Not surprisingly, investors have made themselves scarce. Voters don't want any more bond debt, and even the feds have pulled out. Plus, not a single mile of track has been built. So there isn't even any revenue from riders yet. I doubt that train is ever going to be built to completion. The financial burden, however, it'll weigh down Californians for generations to come. And the reality is that a network of normal tracks with normal trains would have cost a fraction of the price, been just as good, and much more doable. But California had to have the latest and greatest fun toy on Adventure Island. It wouldn't settle for just being a normal grown-up. Now, I could replace the word train for freeway, up the price tag by a factor of 5, and we'd have the very same story going back 75 years. We could also do it more recently with housing, and so on and so on. In other words, California brings magical thinking to everything it does, and in the end, it costs it dearly. Therefore, like in the story of Pinocchio, where the little boy must go through a transformational journey into death in order to become a man, so too must California. That symbolic, even literal, death of California as we know it is not far off. What would that look like exactly? I don't know. Separation, secession, civil war, I don't know. But everything is coming to a head all at once, and I haven't even mentioned all the other serious problems. But we know that when a state or nation or any political entity that has so many large-scale, severe economic, social, environment, and political problems all at once, like California does, it almost always leads to one thing. People leave. And that's exactly what we're seeing now. Since 2020, the US Census Bureau estimates the state had a net loss of 200,000 Californians. That loss even showed signs of an uptick this last year. Nearby states like Oregon, Nevada, Arizona, and Texas have already felt the effects of California refugees for a number of years. But the truth is, the California migration wave has barely begun. Things in California are going to get much worse, and many people in a state with the same population as all of Canada, I might add, are going to leave. For the rest of us, now would be a good time to prepare. The Californians are coming to town, just as soon as they, and I, can actually get to where we want to go. Anyway, Mark Heck signing off for the New Canada Conversation.